Having a painting breakthrough often feels like it was handed down to us by a greater force. Like the muses smiled upon us, the paint just flowed, and somehow an incredible painting appeared on our canvas with seemingly no effort. And in the moment, it feels incredible, but it makes it really difficult to replicate. If you've ever had a painting breakthrough only for your next 7 paintings to look like you have never painted before, you probably know what I mean. Now, if you aren't at the point where you have made a breakthrough painting that got you all the way to your goal style, where you finished and you were just like, this is it, this is what I've always wanted to make, you are in luck, because this is exactly what I specialize in. And I have an entire mentorship built to help you understand exactly what professional level style you want to paint in, how to build the precise skills that you need to start making the breakthroughs that you're after, and how to help you make those breakthrough level pieces over and over so you become known for your goal style. There's more info in the description, as well as a link to reach out to me to get the ball rolling. And if you've had these breakthroughs, but you're feeling stuck or like you don't know how you got there that one time, well, the problem is that as artists, we don't often think like scientists. Or at least we don't think like scientists often enough. We often go off of whether we're simply happy with a painting or how a painting felt for us to make. And that is both a fickle measure of success, and it doesn't give us any real understanding of how we got there so that we can trace back our steps and reverse engineer a way to make that breakthrough again. So I'm going to walk you through exactly what I tell my students when this happens, and walk you through the next steps that you can take to turn a one-time breakthrough into your recipe for painting success over and over. First things first in this process, when you make a breakthrough painting, I'm going to say it right now, listen back to this part as much as you need to, you did not just get lucky. It was not a fluke. You had all of the skill that you needed to make that painting. And if you did it once, you can do it again. Definitively. End of story. How do I know this? Well, aside from teaching literally hundreds of painters to work through this exact challenge around breakthrough paintings and seeing that they are all capable of what they made and they're capable of making these paintings over and over, I can confidently say that this wasn't luck, even aside from having all of that experience built up. And that is because you did not simply trip while carrying a bucket of paint and have it spill onto a blank canvas to make this breakthrough. The reality is that you had the skills to lay down every single mark. Did you know exactly how to put every single mark down? Or did some of the marks surprise you? Maybe. But the point is that you had to have the capability first, or it simply wouldn't have happened. So what made this special painting so special that it became a breakthrough? Like I already said, you didn't just get lucky, but you probably were set up for success. And this is a distinction worth understanding much better. So you probably had a reference that felt intuitive to work from, a reference that showed you how to get the striking color or light that you were looking for, a reference that featured the model in a pose that felt flattering or compelling to you. You probably weren't changing a lot of the composition mid-painting because you probably already had a vision for the final painting before you even started. You probably followed a process to build up the paint on the canvas that felt intuitive to you. Maybe you started with a pencil drawing, then laid down a thin wash of transparent oxide brown to represent the darks, and then blocked in your color going from your medium values all the way to the lights. Or perhaps you skipped the pencil step and started blocking in directly with paint, but you took the time to check your drawing early to ensure that you wouldn't have to repaint an eye or move a poorly placed ear. You probably had the ideal amount of time to take the painting from start to finish without interruption. Or maybe you planned breaks at ideal times so that you would walk away from the easel for a few minutes before you started to make silly mistakes. Your mood was probably good, or at least ideal for painting. You probably weren't coming into the session exhausted. You may have even been listening to your favorite audiobook, podcast, or YouTube channel. You can subscribe to mine if you like listening to me while you paint, in case you aren't already subscribed. Or perhaps you went through your favorite pre-painting ritual to get yourself into a state of flow on this breakthrough piece. The reality is that this looks a little bit different for everybody, which is why I recommend to my painters that they start journaling as soon as they have their first breakthrough. I want them to jot down every variable that they think could have possibly contributed to the success of that one breakthrough painting. And I'll tell you what I tell them. At first, when you go through this step of going through and trying to document everything that could have contributed to the success of this painting, it's just going to be a big collection of data. And it's going to feel maybe sort of overwhelming, possibly kind of meaningless. But if you start to track this over time, if you start to log everything that contributed to the success of a painting after your painting session is finished, you're going to start to see some trends. First, you'll notice the things that you see coming up over and over on successful paintings. And second, you'll start to see the things that come up over and over on the paintings that you just want to throw in a fire. And this is incredibly valuable. It tells us both what conditions we need to have in place before you begin a painting in order to set yourself up for success over and over. And it tells us what conditions we need to avoid. So things like working with too little time, working with mediocre reference, or painting a subject that we just aren't excited about. So when you step back and you put everything together, the result is that you can confidently lay out all that has to happen to set yourself up for success. And that's exactly what I did with this painting. I followed a process that I know sets me up for success. So I started with an uninterrupted stretch of painting time. I didn't do this, between meetings to chat with prospective mentees. I didn't do it in between teaching sessions. I didn't try to fit it in before I had breakfast when I was still tired and wanted some caffeine in the morning, and I didn't try to fit it in at the end of my day. I also had company in the studio to give me energy and keep me, company while I worked. I picked out a reference of a model that I've already painted from numerous times. I know I love painting this model, and I knew that I would love painting from this particular reference. But that wasn't all. I took the time to plan out the composition in Photoshop, testing out a few different composition options in terms of the aspect ratio, the cropping, the background that I wanted, until I had a plan that I knew I would be happy with, that allowed me to visualize what this painting would look like when it's finished. And the reality is that the idea that I had for the composition wasn't the one that I went with. After I took the steps to test this out, I realized that the direction I wanted to go wasn't the direction that I had in mind initially, which is how I know that this process works so well for me. And once I had that plan complete in Photoshop and I knew exactly what the final painting should look like, well, this is when we start putting paint to canvas. And to do that, I used a wet into wet process that you have probably seen me use countless times on this channel. This is a process that I've honed over and over again. I'm comfortable with it, and there's not a lot of guesswork involved for me. It starts with using a Gamsol wash. On this painting, that wash was ultramarine, transparent oxide brown, and a touch of permanent rose to get this kind of purplish gray color as my background. I then laid out the overall proportions of the subject on the canvas using some Gamsol thinned black paint or black mixture of the colors that I already mentioned. And then I checked this block in against my Photoshop mockup to ensure that I had gotten the placement and the proportions of everything correct. And when inevitably I hadn't, I went through and I made those corrections until I could confidently dive into the next step. Once I knew that all of the anchor points of my drawing were accurate, so I had the edges of the face, the midline, the placement of the eyes, the bottom of the nose, the mouth, the tops and sides and bottom of the hair, all in exactly the correct place, I could go ahead and start blocking in color. And to do this, I worked dark to light. So I started with rich translucent darks for the hair and the shadows. Then I moved into opaque, more impasto-heavy mixtures for areas of light. I ensured that everything looked accurate and satisfactory at the block-in stage, which was focused on very big shapes, and then I slowly whittled away at those until the shapes were small and exact, and everything from my drawing to my color felt dialed into place. The result is a painting that I am proud to share with you all here on YouTube. I'm proud to put this in my portfolio, and I'm going to be proud to hang it on my wall until it finds a new home with a collector. If you're interested in getting my help to have painting breakthroughs in the style that you want to be known for, I'm here to tell you right now that this is possible. This is what I help my students with every day. And if you're serious about this, I would love to speak with you one-on-one to hear about the kinds of paintings you would like to make so that I can walk you through a personalized vision or version of this plan that goes through in detail the steps that you need to take to reach your goals. For more information on working with me, what this call will look like, and to book a call to speak with me and have this conversation, make sure to check out the links in the description. And even if you aren't ready today, I want to hear from you. So what questions do you have about achieving breakthroughs in your work? Make sure to let me know in the comments. All right, thanks for watching. I hope this has been exactly what your painting journey needed today. And until next time, happy painting.